A new supervisor will soon take over at the town's transfer station. A project to upgrade some of the town's water mains will soon begin. And we chat with Police Chief Paul McDonald on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, September 8th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mannel. A new division supervisor will take over at the town's transfer station soon. DPW Director Dan Santos says a longtime DPW employee was selected to take over the position after the current supervisor announced his plans for retirement.
Longtime employee Robert Lovell, Bob, is retiring, and he's been over there about 5 years. He was previously the Highway Division supervisor, been with the town about 32 years, and time for a change. And so we looked internally for candidates, and turns out we had a great candidate here in the form of P.J. Kelleher, who has been probably for about that same amount of time been in the position of the Highway Division General Foreman. So, we've worked very hard in the department here to provide career ladders for people. So, you can enter this department, as PJ did, as a seasonal, and he's worked his way up in just 14 years all the way to division supervisor. So it's good to have good people in house and develop them and mentor them and have them succeed and give back to the town in that way. So we're very excited to have him over there, and he's very excited for the new challenge.
Santos says Kelleher will also continue to help with the town's snow removal efforts this winter on top of his duties at the transfer station. A project to improve water mains in town will soon begin. DPW Director Dan Santos says his department has been working on the project for a number of years.
And what we are doing is replacing the water mains, the water lines that are, along our roads, providing, municipal water. A lot of these lines have been in, some of them have been in over 100 years, and it's about time that they get replaced. What happens is they kind of rust on the inside, and so what it does is it constricts the flow, so the pipe gets smaller and smaller and smaller on the inside, so you get less pressure and less flow. So what we're doing is replacing those lines. And
the work will be done in September and October. Santos recommends drivers avoid construction areas while work is being done. The holiday weekend was a busy one for the Barnstable Police Department. To find out more, Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin talked with Police Chief Paul McDonald. We share that interview with you now.
Well, the Labor Day weekend is behind us, the busy summer season somewhat behind us. Tell me a little bit about what has happened in recent days, Chief.
It's been a fairly busy week. We probably had, in the course of a week, about 1,500 calls for service. The number of arrests were up. Just in the past weekend, we had 35 incidents. Of course, last Tuesday, the shelter went dry, so we're trying to track very carefully the number of incidents involved with that. And we have noticed that the number of people placed in protective custody has almost doubled from 1 month to the next month. It went from August and July at this time in the month of 13. So far, September has already been 27 people placed in protective custody. And we expected a spike from the shelter going dry because I think that's what they have to do, so I had to step in the right direction. But it was a busy weekend for us, but the calls basically were minor in nature. Nothing really that to report on. However, we did have two very specific incidents. The first one was a swatting incident that occurred late Saturday night, Sunday morning, and somebody called the station saying that he was disgruntled and that he just shot his wife. What concerned us the most, he had some pretty particular information about the particular house where he said he was at. He knew who the homeowner was. He knew his wife, knew the name of the children. We responded. Of course, we had to take it as a serious incident. And the whole intention of these individuals is to embarrass the police department by having the SWAT team respond, make forced entry into the house just to make sure that everybody's safe. Fortunately, the officers took their time. They did it right, and they quickly found out and recognized it as a fake incident, as a hoax. They were able to contact the homeowner and his wife in terms that everything was fine. We are now attempting to track down that individual using his phone number.
Indeed. And if you do find the individual who made the initial phone call, what kind of charges can that person face?
Well, right now, probably the most serious charge is a false report to police. It's not much. It's a relatively minor misdemeanor. It carries 30 days house of correction and a minimal fee. But it's more important is to find out who this gentleman is and why he's doing it.
Indeed. Any connection, do you think, between the people who he was pretending to be and himself?
We do have we do think they know each other because some of the information they gave was so particular, and we do know that the person does own the house. He had a problem with someone who was relatively close to him the last week or so. So we kind of think we may have a suspect.
Interesting. Something that really doesn't happen that often, Chief.
It's happened so far probably 4 or 5 times this year. It's happened down in Dennis. It's happened down in New Orleans. And the whole idea to do this is to embarrass the police department. Of course, you break into the house, you do a forced entry, a dynamic entry, which is a SWAT team. You can only imagine how shaken the people are going to be inside that home when that happens. So you have to be careful.
Indeed, indeed. Chief, you said another relatively unusual incident occurred over the past week as well.
It was a tagging incident. Sunday morning, we got a call a bunch of graffiti up and down Main Street on the sidewalk on both sides of the street. It was written in chalk. And there's probably maybe 30 to 35 different separate incidents. And on it says that only Black Lives Matters, silent racism supports violent racism, homeless are people, disband the Ku Klux Klan, Sandy Bland lynched by police. You're a racist if that offends you. Black Lives Matter. On and on, up and down Main Street. It was pretty disturbing. But the police officer went out there. They do have videotape of an individual who was doing it. It was a black female, and it looks like she's late 20s, early 30s. We have videotape of her actually writing the graffiti on the sidewalk. And then Sunday morning, we contacted the Hyannis Fire Department, and they were great. They came out with an engine company, and they were able to wash the entire sidewalk down and remove all the graffiti. And we take this pretty serious. I mean, obviously, somebody is trying to instigate other individuals against the police.
Indeed, Chief, and you did mention that was done in chalk, and I think that's probably a positive in that the cleanup was much easier than if it was to be done in spray paint or something more
It just made cleanup a lot easier, but it's still very disturbing.
Absolutely. Chief, let's talk a little bit about the homeless issue. Of course, continued discussion on that in an article in the Cape Cod Times about the homeless camps that are here in town. Obviously, nothing new with those camps, but I understand that you will be doing another sweep, another cleanup of those coming up very soon.
Right. Friday morning, the Cape Cod Times, a representative male, they want to have a tour of the camp, so we took them out, and they walked through all the camps with us. And today, this morning, working with the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Public Works, we will be going out to Nantucket Street, Old Colony, and there's a half a dozen camps that we have identified because of their close proximity to the schools and the ball fields down there. Those camps are going to be cleaned up today. The people who are in the camps, they know we're coming. Most of them already have moved out. We told them take whatever belongings you have, whatever precious things that you want to keep with you, take them because we will be there this morning. So we'll get that done.
Indeed, and Chief, what are the biggest dangers about having folks live in the woods? Obviously, I would think that as we get into the colder weather, the safety of the people themselves, but dangers of having kind of a camp set up in our woods here in Barnstable. What are the biggest dangers?
Well, they're really not camps. I mean, we call them camps for lack of a better term. But basically they're squalor. It's inhumane to allow them out there. Last Thursday, I brought the health department out there, and they declared them, same way they condemn a house, they condemn these camps, they're unfit for human inhabitants, because you just can't stay in that place. And then the criminal element that preys on the other homeless individuals and the things that go on there. Each camp that we went to had some type of makeshift weapon close by them. One lady, she sleeps with a baseball bat. Another couple of individuals, they have a hammer or a screwdriver right beside them to protect themselves against other homeless individuals who prey on them. So these camps have got to go. We give a list of places where they can go, social services they can hook up with, or to go to NOAA shelter. But if they go to NOAA shelter, they can't be drinking. That's the biggest reason why they're in the camps is because they're still drinking or using drugs.
Indeed. Chief, anything else over the past week or that we're coming up that you would like to share with our viewers?
No, it was a great weekend. We were busy, a lot of calls, but nothing that serious. And Main Street was busy. All the beaches were crowded, so it looked like it was a pretty good weekend for everybody.
And you can hear from Police Chief Paul McDonald every Tuesday morning on our 1 hour long news program, Barnstable This Morning. The show airs weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will talk with Director of Growth Management Joanne Miller-Buntich. We'll chat with Finance Director Mark Milne and Director of Senior Services Madeline Noonan. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.